Why, hello there. Nice to hear. I hope this video finds you very, very well. I very much thank you for tuning in. And consider liking, subscribing if you like the content. Consider leaving some thoughts down below if you don't. Or if you want to see certain content, maybe there's a certain knife that you want some other opinions on or that before you buy, or who knows, after you bought. Who cares, right? I will take a look at everything, and I greatly appreciate it. What are we doing today? Well, as you may have seen in the thumbnail, I have taken a few shots at titanium. Oh my god. No, but seriously, this is the Penrose Stasis. This is the second model from Penrose knives, and this is not quite a budget knife. It's low mid-tier, coming in at about $120. This thing is great, and if we can get aluminum and mid-tier usable steels like this 154 cm at this price point, coming from even smaller design companies, maybe that should be embraced. Maybe we don't need to see quite as many $350 premium knives coming out. Things are tight for everybody, and I don't know about you, but I'd appreciate good quality mid-tier knives if we can get them from some interesting designers and in their interesting designs. Like, I like that. I just do. Let me know your thoughts about that. But without further ado, we will get into specs. However, just let me say that, as always, there are timestamps down below on my reviews that are longer. You can skip through the specs if you don't care to see them, of course. I know that retention and viewer stuff is, like they say, the most important thing, but if you don't want to see the specs, I don't want to bog you down with that. You can always just jump through it through the description. So, letting you know that's there. Let's get into specs right now, though. For those who do care to see it, you have just over 3 1/8 inches of blade, just under 7 5/8 inches, 5/8 of an inch of handle, and just a little bit more than 4 3/8. I'd call that, like, maybe, if you really just want to round it and make it clean, 3 1/8, 4 3/8. Pretty darn close to almost being 7.5, but it's a little bit over that for the actual length of the knife. Apologies, slowed down there. Brain stopped working. No, brain fog and all that stuff. I hate that term because now that I know it, it's like, oh god, I have that. Allergies and other things. Ugh. Comparisons to our resident small Elementum and our full-size Civivi Conspirator. As you can see, it sits pretty well in between. Sits pretty well in between them, please. Thank you. A little closer to the Conspirator member in general size, but it is definitely not a small knife, so I'd call this not a full-size knife, a medium-size knife. This is a full-size knife. This is a medium-size knife. Perhaps more important than that comparison are the comparison to 2 AA batteries, because anybody can grab 2 AA batteries and see how much grip length they have. Your standard spot here, you have about 1 3/4 of a AA battery, but you also have this choke up position, which doesn't look necessarily like it's got the greatest angles going on, but we will talk about that when I get there. However, it is more usable than you might think just looking at it. Weight, there we go, there's the scale. Hopefully you can see the scale when it zeroes out. 3.8 ounces. That is not quite an ounce an inch, but it's pretty reasonable for, I mean, the aluminum's light, but it's got, a full steel, not quite a full steel body. It's got like a sort of a miniaturized, well, shape of the handle in here to house the crossbar lock, and it's of course got the crossbar lock and everything. That adds weight, and it's also got a pretty decently tall blade, so I think the weight is actually pretty good on this thing. Hardware check. T8. Pivot. Yes, T8 pivot. I have taken this apart These are T6. I'm not sure why. I prefer them to be T8, but as I have taken it apart, and I believe you have to take this screw for the... Do you have to take this screw? I think so. I think this screw attaches to the spacer. Maybe not. No, yeah, I think you do. But as you can see, what I just did right there, this is a fully solid and very easily usable T6. It didn't strip out. It's reasonably deep. It works, so no big deal there. Not ideal, but at least it's good. Calipers, there they are. They're on. Why are they on? Zero out? Yeah, okay, you're zeroed. Thickness. 469 thousandths. Okay, sure. Under half an inch. With the clip, you're right about 650 thousandths. Blade stock is 118 thousandths. Okay. I don't know what they were going for there, but it kind of got lost in between. And behind the edge, I know it's not the thinnest of knives ever. Like, it's not like one of those super ridiculous... But it is 116 thousandths behind the edge, which is a nice happy medium. It creates a decently strong edge. You've got enough height for it to be slicey. And honestly, yeah, this is perfectly fine. This is good geometry. And it came with a good edge. This is deceptively sharp. It's one of those ones where it's like you can feel this fine edge. It does. You can move along it, but if you were to press, it would definitely get you. I believe that is the end of our specs. So let us conclude that. And well, welcome to those who skipped over the specs because this is where you'd be coming out, right? Okay. So, quick talk about this knife. Blade shape is a modified sheep's foot, 154 cm blade steel, good, decent sort of mid-tier steel, lower mid-tier steel. Jimping is on the spine, but it also is up here. Actually, it takes up quite a bit of the spine for the more detailed work. I really like when they put jimping here, especially if it's good jimping, and despite this not looking like that, it actually is. It's really quite sticky. In fact, their first knife, the Otorita, also had really good jimping. I'd say this is even better jimping. So, no problems. Also, I mentioned those, $300-400 OEM projects. This is their first knife in titanium, the Otorita, designed OEM by Kubi for them, and it came in at about $200. So not all. I guess this company likes bucking trends, and I'm all here for it because both of their knives so far have been excellent, very recommendable. Unfortunately, they are not in stock at the moment, but that's good in its own way. That means they sold out, right? We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a bit. But good jimping. Your actuation method is primarily the thumb studs. You do have this fuller. It's not super deep. You can use it. It does work. But I do tend to sometimes find myself just gravitating to the thumb studs in general. However, it is there should you want to use it, which I'm not going to complain about extra stuff, right? Penrose logo right there. That is the Penrose triangle, an impossible shape. If you didn't know, but that doesn't matter. But on the previous one, they put it on the pivot. Actually, might as well just show it to you. It's right there on the pivot. That may have cost a little bit more. Don't mind, since we're trying to keep this one in reasonable budget territory at $120. Not budget, but more reasonable, let's call it. The logo is small. It is on the flat. They could have put it in there. They could have put it there. Either way, it's nice, compact, out of the way, and the 154 cm doesn't even show up until you close the blade. This needs to be done more often, companies. Just in general, this is just a shout out to every company, especially those that are doing the high-end stuff that, you're spending $350 for. This is an arcane design creature. I love this knife. Got this one in recently. But I don't love the logos. I don't like seeing it on any of these knives. Especially when we're paying, $300 for a knife. This is a premium knife. Part of what you're paying for is the execution and sophistication and the design and the out of the ordinary. We're losing, you're not just paying for efficiency. This does all this same stuff in pretty much the same way, but it's cheaper. I know who I bought it from. I know what it's called. I don't need to see your logos on it, especially if it's a premium, refined product, right? That with no logo looks better than that with a logo. In Arcane Design's case, particularly as they put their logo under here, and I've seen them also do it here, if they could just put that and, that there, they could have kept this thing very clean. It is a fantastic knife, and I really like this. But they, and many, many other companies, I'm not just singling out them, especially on their ultra-premium products, just get rid of the logos. Move them somewhere else where they're not obtrusive, make them super small, keep them on the flats of the blade, or get rid of them entirely because, as I said, I bought your knife. I don't need to see your logo. If someone's interested in your knife, I will tell them about your knife if it is a good knife. I'll be more than happy about that, to do that for you. Don't need to worry about it. Don't need to brand to that extent. Keep it a little minimal, and I'll be a much happier camper. Let me know your thoughts about that below. I know it's a big pet peeve of mine. I say it all the time, but I'm going to keep saying it all the time because I don't want to see all of that branding. I don't want to see a giant stamp of your name on the blade, for God's sakes. Certain company. But, where was I? I got off on a tangent. Plunge grind, fantastic, tons of life, sits right there. The entire thing is a giant finger choil, but also the sharpening choil is, it's all usable, considering this is where the closest thing that actually touches the blade, and that's the edge over there. So, it's down here. So, yeah, you have infinite life to sharpen on this thing. It will get a little bit thicker, but you have a ton of room for it. I did mention the rather unusual looking, almost right angle for the choke-up position on in there. And yes, it usually seems to be better as just a sort of first knuckle choke-up position. However, if you reorient the knife down a little bit, which actually cants it forward, and reinforce that by putting your finger up here and pressing a little bit, you can almost get into like a trigger pull sort of situation where you're pulling right here on this part. That is surprisingly comfortable. Yeah, I don't actually have a problem with this. I thought when I saw it that it really wasn't going to be much of a choke-up position. I'm completely happy to live here. This is super comfortable. Despite the narrow handle. It's way more comfortable than it necessarily has any right being, frankly. But this works way better than I thought. So, good on you. Thank you for considering that. I assume you took that into consideration. As you saw, this is a crossbar lock knife. I know that's not going to be for everyone. Fair enough. But I do think it is good here. It's solid, very strong. It is adjustable. You can see the three little three little holes for the peg of the springs to go into. I have moved it to the strongest one, and it's pretty reasonably strong. I can just barely get it out if I really, whip it. Let's see. There we go. But that's taken a considerable amount of effort. This is not going to just come out on you. And very nice, very smooth, very good at sucking in. It's a well-executed crossbar lock. It does need to be taken apart to a decent degree to get to that, to all change that. You got to remove these screws and this screw and stuff, but you can do it. It wasn't super hard. And as far as crossbar locks, it did not fight me going back together. I actually took this thing completely apart and cleaned it outside. So, no complaints there. There's more jimping, I guess, here on the crossbar lock. That doesn't really do anything, but fine. Sure. Whatever. You do you. Now. Oh, and it sticks out just enough that it really does, work pretty well. Oh, and you can deploy it that way, too, of course. Didn't even mention that. Moving on to the handle here, we have aluminum, and this aluminum is really, really nice. They really did a good job. Not only is it nicely textured, in fact, Hopefully that came across. Very nicely textured, very, very well finished, but all of the edges are nice and rounded and softened and smooth. I mean, there's chamfers, but even the edges here are very, very nice. They're just well executed. And if you look closely, as you can see, it's the, plain flat aluminum parts have sort of like an orange peel texture. It's actually got it on the, come on, focus, on the spine a bit too, not on the backspacer, but on the spine of the handle scales. It just feels good. It just feels nice. It's just very welcoming. And as I said, if you can get this at this price point executed this well, I wouldn't mind seeing a few more third-party sort of designer companies following suit. Like, I don't necessarily have to have all of my knives be $400, especially when things are tight, right? This is much nicer and much more affordable. Not nicer, but this is very nice and very much more affordable. So, excellent job. Cannot stress enough how well this has been executed on the handles. And despite the budgeted pocket clip, that, doesn't look, whenever you get a narrow handle like this, with a pocket clip like that, deep carry and everything, you think, oh, that's going to be uncomfortable. It's not. It's really comfortable in my hands. It's not quite disappearing, but it's probably about as close as it can get. It's super comfortable, and it's solid. The pocket clip itself has, I don't like necessarily the flat at the end here, but it does work. It works really well. There is actually, taken into consideration, one thing you do have to recognize or take into account. If you flip this clip, there is a spot under here, you can see, that is flat for the clip to land on. They didn't put it on this side, which, of course, that would screw up the looks, but if you reverse it, you're not only going to see that, but you're not going to have it here, so it might not be quite as good for left-handed carry, even though it is an ambidextrous lock. Just something to take into consideration. The clip itself, as I said, flat, not ideal, but it works really well. It's got good spring, good retention, and the most important part is it's pretty comfortable in the hand. Inset screws, inset clip, honestly, and depth is like ultra deep carry. It goes all the way down there. It's got enough room to really slide up. So it pretty much disappears in the pocket. There is also a hidden lanyard post and a backspacer that surrounds it, and a tab filler for the reverse screw holes, pocket clip screw holes. I don't even know what to call that. It's a filler tab. But I don't always love the filler tabs. I don't like how they oftentimes break up the design and flow of everything. Like, I don't actually mind when you just see holes there because you have the material. Pardon me. But this one, because the highlights and like the two-tone nature of the gold and silver next to each other, it works. And the plain one is silver, so you probably wouldn't even really see it all that much at all. So, no big deal. This is a great knife. At $120, this is an absolute win. It is solid, it is a rock. I know not everybody's going to like the crossbar lock, but this is a particularly good one. Top tier execution. At least on this one, and I bought this knife. I did not get this sent to me. Though Penrose has been very accommodating, and I have a link down below to their site. However, the bad news. Have to get there. Both the Otorita here and the Stasis have been sold out. Now, that's a good thing in terms of clearly people have recognized that these are good products and bought them. The bad part is you can't get them right now. I will still link that down below. They do have a third design in the process, which actually looks like a pretty cool design, so you may want to check it out and follow. But hopefully, especially this one, the Stasis, hopefully they'll do more runs of this, because this is a good one. I think this sold pretty well, and deservedly so. This is a good knife. A very good knife, in fact. They're both good, but this is particularly nice at this price point. You don't see a lot of, independent designers getting OEM knives coming out this price point, which is a shame, because if you can do it to this level, I want to see more. I'm definitely going to be watching Penrose. They've been great. Definitely going to be getting in the third design. Just straight up. It looks cool. The first two are great. I'm going to get the third one. I'm going to feature it. I'm going to do reviews on it. I'm going to talk about it. If you were to care to get one for yourself, or they restock this one, or you want to just keep an eye on them, you can go through my links. It does support the channel, for one of the first links to do so, and again, I like saying it. It's just cool. But Stasis is great. Very glad to have it. Centered, solid, yeah. Top-notch stuff. Penrose, good job. That's it from me. Thank you very, very much for watching. See you later, and maybe check out something else on the channel before you leave, you know. Viewer retention, clicks, views, all that helps. Help me get to 1,000 subscribers if you would care to, and have a great day.